What's up, everybody? Ryan Michael Ballo here to talk about the often controversial topic of executives and entrepreneurs taking smart drugs and what that means, why that might be beneficial, and kind of what I think about it. I'm an entrepreneur of 5.5, 6 years now, and I own two companies. I've probably started somewhere between 5 and 7 attempted companies, most of which didn't work out, and those were in the early years. That's what happens. It's been an interesting process. I started using nootropics and kind of experimenting with nootropics about 6 years ago, right in the beginning, and then for a great period of time after that, I didn't really fuss with nootropics at all. I kind of was just like, I'm not really interested. It's not something that I think can benefit me majorly. My first experience with nootropics, my first ever experience with nootropics, really wasn't that convincing, and so. Through the subsequent years, though, and depending on when this starts, like the subsequent months, I got reignited into the idea of taking nootropics via. I think I was watching the Joe Rogan podcast, and they talk about Alpha Brain all the time. Alpha Brain's a pretty popular nootropic that even though at this point they're in direct competition with my company Surrogate Labs and our product Cortex, that product is still an awesome product depending on your brain chemistry, right? So I started getting interested in nootropics again, started to take nootropics, and realized that I could accelerate the process of the growth of my business. I could accelerate the growth of my business taking nootropics. Just like hands down, that was the case for me. And so I recognized that when I went to meetings, that I was a lot more verbally fluent after taking nootropics. It was just like wasn't. If I was sitting there trying to explain over the phone or in person to like the IT coordinator for a major school district to use my company's services for iPad damage management, which is primarily what we do, I need to be verbally fluent, and I remember being able to do that a lot better, being able to access my information, being able to combat their sort of rebuttals to our sales pitch a lot more effectively. And then I was basically just convinced, not only can I sell better, but my brain works faster. My working memory is better when I'm reading information that I really need to comprehend, because there's so much of it. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm running this company. I'm running a second company. And at various points, depending on whether or not I've had contractors here, I've run the company by myself. That's a lot of work, right? And I need to grasp a lot of information and be able to kind of hold it in my working memory, so that's important. Entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley and entrepreneurs in startup companies and entrepreneurs really all around the world that are using nootropics, I would say entrepreneurs that are in the position where they need to have all those brain characteristics that I talked about earlier, benefit greatly from taking a substance, natural or unnatural, that facilitates, in some way brain function in order to make those things happen. I think once you cross over into that world of being an entrepreneur, it's essentially no holds barred. There really isn't much that you won't do to get ahead. There's not much, because essentially it really comes down to how important is the end goal to you, how important is creating the outcome to you, how important is building your company to you. And for a lot of startups, it's everything. And for most entrepreneurs, I would be hopeful in saying that it's everything, right? I hope that it's everything to you, because it's everything to me, and it's everything to most diehard entrepreneurs, especially if you're a startup company who just raised $5 million from X company, X venture capital company, and they're relying on you to make a 10x return or 5x return or 20x return on their money that they just gave you. $5 million is now sitting in your checking account, the business checking account. And now you've got a business to build, and now you've got stuff to do, and you've got things to prove, and now you've got friends that looked at you and think you're strange because you didn't go to college, or you didn't pursue that route, or you're not working for corporate. You decided that you were going to start your own enterprise, your own company, your own whatever. And so you have to live up to the sort of obligation, the social obligation you've created, in that situation, and all that stuff. The pressure of being an entrepreneur, the pressure of having an angel or VC invest hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars into your company, telling people like, look, I'm going this alternate route, I'm going to start my own company, I have this idea for some technology or for software, going all those routes and having all those obligations, like you really are at the mercy of, you really just have to make sure you get it done. And And it's very, very easy to be essentially like a line drive, to have your vision, have your orientation just be line drived toward the outcome. Nothing's going to get in the way, and you're going to do everything you can to make it happen. And that's where nootropics, for a lot of executives and a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of startups, come in. That's where it comes in. It's like, I got to build this company, and in order to build the company successfully, to make the company work great, for us to at least do revenue. A lot of companies kind of don't profit for the first year or 2 or 3, and that's typical. At least do some revenue. It's like we got to not only come in during the day and hustle our faces off and do everything we can to make it happen, but then we got to think about how we can make it better and execute on that. And then at 6 o'clock at night, when it's all over and we close the doors and we go home to our families or our apartments or whatever, or our dogs, we got to eat dinner and then jump back on the laptop and hustle again until 11 p.m., 12 a.m. to really get it done. Especially if you're a serial entrepreneur and you want to build more than one company. Like, I can't say that I suggest it, but over the course of the last 2 years, I've been building 2 companies at the same time. Running one, which requires a lot of my time, a lot of labor, a lot of thinking, a lot of administrivia, a lot of hardware management, a lot of physical stuff, and another company which requires physical stuff at the same time, but is more e-commerce based and digital, but also requires a ton of marketing and a ton of biz dev and a ton of other stuff. Where, I've essentially had to do that. I've had to run the second company at nighttime. I've had to build the second company at nighttime. And I got to tell you, if I'm eating right, if I get, particularly for me, it's like enough carbs, enough vegetables, carbs specifically for my energy expenditure, and basically salmon. I got to eat, salmon once a day. Then frankly, nootropics are just an extra, boost. It's just an extra benefit to me. My brain functions good, and I can go home and work on my second business, or another business or a future business, from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. and be basically fine, doing that. But but it is much more useful in the case where, for whatever reason, I can't eat right, or my diet's just not dialed in, and that could be I'm slacking, I'm not doing the right thing, I didn't sleep right recently, I've been too lazy to go to the store and re-up on salmon, whatever it might be. Then nootropics really facilitate, in my brain, the capacity to go and engage in that kind of cerebral work from 6 p.m. to 12 p.m. 12 a.m. Even if my diet's a little off, or if something else is a little off. And not that I suggest that whatsoever, but I'm just saying this is a use case where it's useful, in taking nootropics later on. And for people that have to run 2 companies and require the brain to not degrade over the course of the day, require the brain's neurotransmitter levels to stay high, because stress depletes them and engaging in stuff depletes them. People that require that sort of cerebral output, if you think about the science behind it and really the objectivity behind it, you really are going to need the raw chemicals that are precursors to those neurotransmitters, or you're going to need the nootropic agents that that work on the various systems of neurotransmission, and antioxidant facilitation to make the brain work better. And that's really important. So are startups and our executives out there taking smart drugs? Yeah, hell yeah. Am I one of them? Hell yeah. There's no way that I, at this stage of my life, I'm now 32, been able to build the businesses that I've been able to build as fast as I've been able to build them without taking smart drugs. I said that in the video that I did about are smart drugs and nootropics cheating? To which I answered no, because there's various reasons why kind of I given that video, but man, it's necessary. I think and it's very useful. And I guess perhaps we should end on the idea that, rather than looking at it, because this kind of does overlap the idea of nootropics cheating or not, rather than looking at it as if nootropics are cheating or taking smart drugs some sort of way out of your normal brain function and gives you the unfair advantage and the unfair leg up, I think it's critical to realize that self-optimization, human optimization, and specifically human brain optimization is critically important to get ahead in anything. It's what people do. People meditate, people drink coffee, people do a host of other things, right? People sleep an extra hour. It's important for people to engage in self-optimization. But more so, there's a growing trend of people in the world, and the business-esque community, the people that need to get stuff done, that recognize that there is a significance and a necessity to optimize the way that their brains function, not just from an acute performance perspective, but from a longevity perspective, as well. There's a lot of nootropics that people take very consciously for the purposes of being antioxidant to the brain, staving off neurodegeneration, protecting the brain from beta amyloid plaques that arise when you have Alzheimer's, and keeping the cholinergic system, the dopaminergic system, the glutaminergic system, all these neurotransmitter systems working optimally when you're young. It's very important to do that. Neurodegeneration starts when you're 30, probably starts before that. And a lot of us are over 30, right? And if not, we're getting there pretty damn soon. And so it's important to keep in mind that it's not just about acute performance optimization. It could be about staving off decline and keeping yourself at a baseline that's that's well functional in terms of cognition. So that's it. I think that moving forward, because people have this new awareness of being able to improve their brains and how that relates to them being effective in the business world, I think that people are going to continue to do that. I think that more and more executives and more startup entrepreneurs and founders and more business people climbing the corporate ladder are going to realize, like, hey, I will have a better brain capacity throughout the day if I take nootropics. And I think with that, more people will start to realize that, if you look at the molecule caffeine, all that does is inhibit a neurotransmitter called adenosine, making you feel a little more awake. That is totally a brain hack and can be totally considered a nootropic. Ginkgo biloba, among other sort of historically classic, well-known agents that help the brain to function better, works in a way that, because it's so pervasive, you wouldn't really think like, oh, that's a smart drug or a nootropic, but it is, right? And there's a whole lot of other things that do that. I even went as far as to make, in a blog post about this, the example of alcohol. Alcohol inhibits the prefrontal cortex in ways that make you more social. Does that mean you're cheating because you drink some alcohol to go out and at a party or something? No. And people don't think that because alcohol is pervasive. So I think that people will start to more integrate the consumption of nootropics with just normal everyday performance optimization, like they do caffeine, hopefully. And because of the growing business interest in it, more people are going to think it's significant moving forward. So if you have not tried the Cortex nootropics, that is the nootropic that we make at Circuit Labs. It is awesome. The ingredients are uridine monophosphate, CDP choline, artichoke extract, which we combined with a cholinergic. It's almost like, you could kind of think of it as like a minor Siltep meets Alpha Brain, except for the uridine mono and the CDP act on the brain very differently in terms of the acetylcholine system than Alpha Brain does, as well as Bacopa monnieri, which is a ages-known adaptogenic herb from Ayurveda, which works really, really well. But the most important part is all the beta testers that took Cortex when it was right before it launched and right before it's launching, and filled out questionnaires and gave me information about how it affected them. Really, really loved it. My best example is a guy who could not read past page 7 in this book about startups, that he has wanted to read for quite some time. It's like been sitting in his den for like 7 months. The dude started taking Cortex, and 3 days later he reads to page 100 and remembers everything that he read. I mean, like, that sounds a little far-fetched, but when you're talking about optimizing the acetylcholine system like tremendously and aiding in synaptic functionality in the brain, that it makes sense. So pick up a bottle of Cortex. It's $40. You'll love it. If you don't, never buy it again. Thanks a lot for watching, and I hope this has made some sense.